don't know how to do that. Why's that? I'm going into admin VC chat for text, and let's see. Ready? Oh, I'm not showing it on screen. Good evening and welcome everybody. How many folks do we have on here now, guys? 700? That's way more than what I expected. So thanks for tuning in to the first official live stream for me on the Laser Everything Else YouTube channel. So hopefully this will be informative. If you have questions, ask them in the chat. I've got J-Mac and Matt in my ear. So we'll highlight the questions and shout them out to me. So first things first, let me get this out of the way. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is prepare our artwork, which will be a fingerprint that I have scanned from a piece of paper that was enlarged, and then I scanned it on the flatbed scanner. So what I'm going to use is Adobe Capture, which is Adobe's mobile app that you can capture. Let's see, let me just show you real quick. So you can capture all kinds of things. So we're just going to go with this real quick. But we can capture, of course, it says type. You can capture shapes. You can get the colors and import them into Adobe Illustrator or any other app in the Creative Cloud. You can make patterns out of the artwork, which is pretty cool. But that is the overview of Adobe Capture in a nutshell, but we're going to focus on capturing shapes. It's a really quick, easy way to trace an image and have that image open up directly into Adobe Illustrator, export it as an SVG, open it up directly in Lightburn or EasyCAD. whatever you want to do. So, yes. That's a good question. I only have one audio stream active, and that's coming direct from the microphone. Okay, is anybody else having echoes or repeats or any sound issues? Awesome. We'll go with that. So anyway, let's start with Adobe Capture and run through this real quick. So basically, when you open Adobe Capture, what you want to do is find the artwork that you want to trace. So camera roll is just going to go to your list of recent photos. Here is one of the West Virginia Capitol. So let's say you wanted to trace that. Just with its default settings, that's how it's going to come into Adobe Capture and trace. So then you can slide this if you want to make it darker or lighter. You can also invert the colors, so you get the inverse of the image. There's this little magic wand that's up in on the top menu bar. If you click that, it's called Auto Clean, and it just tries to clean up any stray dots on the image. But there are a lot of settings you can play with in order to get the optimal trace. So let's look at, in the upper right hand corner, it's going to bring up your saturation, brightness, exposure, etc. menus. So if you wanted to change saturation, you're just working with sliders. So you can slide that up and down however you want. And it doesn't have to be just black and white. We can go here and pick color. So we can actually do a color trace and get a color vector that we can then export out. And then of course, while doing the color trace, you can play with all the settings as well. Alright, so there's tracing in a nutshell, and I already did a trace of that Capitol image, and here's what I came up with just as a quick demo. Let's see, let's get back to the image that we want to work with this evening, and that is the fingerprint. We want to find the fingerprint, and here is the original scan. You'll see that was a full page, and that scan was kind of terrible. So what I did was put it back on the scanner, scan it again, then came up with this image. So that was a little more, looked a little bit clearer, a little bit better to work with. So then again, you can play with all of the settings that are available in Capture and tune the trace to fit your needs. So we don't want to get it too dark, otherwise we're going to trace all the dark spots from the image that we do not want. Just show you a few of these. So you can adjust your contrast, exposure, you can hit your magic wand and let it try to clean it up. So let's say we're happy with this one. Then we hit the check mark. At this point in time, we are able to crop the image and erase parts from it as we convert this to a vector. So a nice feature is just to be able to bring up the eraser tool. Just start working your way around it, and you can get rid of all the extra stuff you don't want. Is that showing up on the stream pretty well? Hopefully. Yes, I can hear you, Matt. All right, so let's say we were happy with that trace, or that erase from the trace. And then we can crop it. So all this extra stuff that's left over on the outside, we can just crop that out. And then we can go to preview. It'll generate a preview of the trace. Then we can hit the arrow key. Phone's doing too many things at once. And then we end up with the shape. However, there's an important step that you don't want to forget when editing these traces. Just discard the changes. I'm just going to go with the default. Then I'm just going to, instead of hitting the preview, hopefully it will respond. I think I'm doing too many things at once. I'm sending the phone's display to my PC wirelessly, so it's kind of slowing it down. All right, let's try this again. All right, so we got all right. Yeah, I see what the problem was. All right, so we're just gonna accept that. And then, all right, so now we have our basic trace there. We can erase if we want to, get rid of all the extra stuff, just like before. I forgot to change my phone back from color, so that's why it was taking so long to process. So now we're just in strict black and white mode. All right, so it's erased. If you want to crop it, then we can crop it. And then the important step is style, because this is where you're going to choose if you want to simplify it. So we're going to reduce the amount of anchor points and lines drawn in the vector, or we can smooth it. So we can add more anchor points to smooth all the curves even more. For an image that's this complicated, which is going to result in a complicated trace, I always go with simplify, and it'll process it pretty quickly. I will show you the example of what smooth looks like. It does take a little bit longer to process because there was a lot of vectors to process. Now, with this fingerprint so complicated, I tried to trace it in Illustrator. That just didn't want to happen to get a good trace. I tried Lightburn and it just wasn't handling that trace very well, which was a surprise. But then I decided I'm gonna go to use Capture because I really like to use Capture. And somebody asked where my mouse was. This is my mouse right here, my little finger. So anyway, Now we have the smooth trace. Again, I don't want to bring that into LightBurn, so I'm just going to go back to the simplified version. Click the arrow to get to the next screen, and then we have the option here to save it. So once we save it, then we have our shape. And the cool thing about Capture is if your phone and Illustrator PC are connected to the same Wi-Fi network, then what we can do is go to go to this one, and then we can open it directly in Illustrator or Photoshop. So if I click that, it's going to open up Illustrator on my PC and open that as an SVG. Or if you just want to export it as an SVG to get it right into LightBurn, you can just do export as, and you can choose from image, SVG, or PDF. So 3 good options there. I'm not going to take the time to actually export this out and open Illustrator because let's see, I already have it prepped and ready for you. And let's see, let me get rid of that, and we're going to go to get rid of that. Hopefully LightBurn decides to cooperate. And here we are with LightBurn. Let's see, I'm going to catch up on chat here real quick. Anything interesting?
We got you covered, bud.
Awesome.
People are talking about the mouse.
All right. I have a file prepared. Here for you guys. First, we'll bring that up. So basically what we want to do is measure the case that we're going to put these fingerprints on. So we're going to put fingerprints on a brass case. And let's see. Let me use that camera instead. So this is the cases that we're going to put fingerprints on. And of course you want to use some calipers and get you a decent measurement. So this is the measurement that I took right here, which was 32.5 from the casing bottom to the top where it starts to neck down to the final size. And then measured the diameter. Yes.
Someone's asking, how did you get the fingerprint in the first place?
I told him to rewind back.
Yeah, it's really easy to get a fingerprint. If you just want from yourself, use a stamp pad, an ink pad, and put it on a piece of paper, blow it up a little bit with a print scan copy machine, and then scan that in as a PDF or bitmap and bring that into then just save that image and import it on your phone or however you want to get it there. Then you can trace at that point. For this particular fingerprint, this was came from a funeral home, so they supplied the fingerprint. I scanned it and then traced it. All right, so we have our measurements. Over in LightBurn, we want to create us a little frame so we make sure we fit our artwork within the measurements of the shell casing. So the casing was 11.9 millimeters in diameter, so it has a 37.385 millimeter circumference. So we want to make sure that our fingerprint and any additional artwork or text does not exceed that 37.385 circumference as it wraps around the shell casing. So I have made this little framing box here, and it is 31 millimeters wide and 28 millimeters high. So I'm going to make sure that it definitely fits within the casing. The way my rotary setup is, the rotary is on the y-axis, so we want to make sure the height does not exceed the 37.385. And then what we're going to see is the height. Let's see, 37.385. So that's going to represent the casing spinning on the rotary, and the 32.5 is going to represent how far the casing is sticking out from the rotary, so we know how wide we can have our image there. So the first thing I did was import the SVG from Capture into Lightburn, and I've already resized it. So as you can see, we now have a fingerprint that's 26 wide and 19 tall. So the 19 tall is going to represent the casing spinning on the rotary. So to visualize that, what we will do is grab this graphic and spin it and move it down here. This way you can see exactly what's going to happen once we actually start burning the case. So here we have 32.5, and the circumference represents the measurement top to bottom. Top to bottom on our frame. And then I prepared some text so we could put a name and dates, and let's make those show up a little brighter. So here we have a name and some text, and the main thing you want to do is make sure it fits in your framing box so that we don't have any burning going off the side of the case or overlapping as it rotates around. So once you have your artwork the way you want it, then we're basically ready to get our rotary set up. Any questions out there right now?
No, everybody's just saying how excited they are to see this. I think they're all just taking it in.
You guys have any points you want to bring in? I can throw you on screen if you want.
No, I'm all good, thanks.
I'm actually
I was just about to say I better go to bed, so I'll see you all later. It's quite late here.
Okay.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. J-Mac is leaving the Discord chat that we were in and heading off to bed. He's in Scotland, so it's kind of late there.
They already know, Patrick, because you've got us all.
Whoops, I accidentally clicked that button. I had thought of it, but I mean, as far as actually putting the fingerprints on the case, a family member had came to me and asked if it's something I would be able to do, and I was kind of looking into fingerprints and different memorial items at the time. So that was the inspiration, and then I decided, well, let's give it a try and see how it looks, and it actually turns out pretty well. Let's see. I gotta watch my mouse. I don't know how I clicked on to put the audio live. All right, so let's switch cameras and go over to the laser. do that? That's not what. There we go. I'm going to go with that camera. All right, so a couple items that I want to point out. First, make sure your rotary is as centered to the Galvo head as possible. So centered on the rotary axis. So for this particular setup, it is the y-axis. So let's see. Turn that light down. So what I do is, as I move this camera here a little bit, I use a Sharpie where I've set my rotary up before and just trace an outline of where it should go so that it's centered. And then once I place it where it should be, because it's not quite centered on these mounting holes, I use one of these jigs that you can slide back and forth and butt it up to the rotary so that I know that it's flush and it's staying square to the bed right here. And then, you know, just a good old Sharpie will help you get it lined up. So that's why mine's already lined up. If yours isn't lined up, let's go back to Lightburn and I'll show you exactly what you need to do. So basically what we want to do is make a straight line. So right there is a straight line. And we want to center it up. Whether you're using Lightburn or EasyCAD, it's the same. You just want to make sure you get a line so you can get your rotary centered up. So on Lightburn, we press P, EasyCAD I think is C, to get to the center of the Galvo head. So once we have it there, then we just want to light up the laser bed and frame it. So if I hit frame, let's see. So with the lights off, you can really see where that is hitting. Cycle through. So if you can see that, it's kind of showing up on camera there, but you can see that it's not showing centered. And what caused that? You think well, my casing's in there, it's tight, it's centered up. Well, either your rotary is not square, or sometimes these things are finicky and round objects just don't want to line up. So set it back in there a little further and we can see that it's now centered. Any questions there? All right. So these casings are kind of finicky. I try to line it up with the indentation on this case. All casings, depending on your caliber, are going to have different diameters and different amounts of material to grab on with your rotary jaws. So you might need to switch jaws or come up with a little jig or something just to get it straightened up. These normally lock in pretty good. So one way to test and see if you have your round object perfectly centered and everything is concentric is to jog your rotary tool and spin it around. So if I just manually spin this, we're going to see this thing rod at the end dip from top to bottom and bottom to top as it rotates. So on the far right side. So that's a good double check to make sure that you know that, again, your round object is centered in your rotary tool. I'm trying to do as many of these things on purpose to show everybody ways you can screw up, and then I'll probably end up leaving it like that and screw up. What was that, Matt? See, so now we're getting to, yeah, it looks a little bit better there. You can tell it's still not quite centered. So depending on how picky you are, you can still fiddle with it a little bit. Try to get the same tension on all the jaws, and hopefully you got a nice centered casing. This is a demo casing. I'm good with that, so that's where I'm going to leave it. All right, so let's get back to Lightburn. So we have our frame, we have our fingerprint, we have our text. We've double checked our sizes, so we know those are all good to go. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Then I am going to now show fingerprint and the date. So here's another area where having your little framing box is handy. I'm not going to do a Lightburn tutorial on how to do all this stuff, but get your framing box and make sure your artwork's centered in your framing box. So then whenever you just run your framing box for actual framing instead of all the artwork, you'll know that it's going to fit. So then with the Lightburn beta for Galvo, we'll come up to laser tools and rotary setup. And I don't think it looks any different than the current version of Lightburn, correct? Yeah, I think it's the exact same. So you're not going to see anything different, at least from this initial rotary setup screen. But my steps are already dialed in. I have my object diameter already input into Lightburn, then it just spits out the circumference just as a courtesy because we really don't need it with the chuck rotary. But double check this, make sure everything's set up. As in EasyCAD, you'd want to determine your split size. I have it set to 0.1 for this rotary. We're doing a dark mark on brass, and it's going to be a 0.025 line interval. So I want the split to be a multiple of the line interval, but I don't want the split to be super small because I don't want it to take forever. We want it to be a little quicker. So I'm going to use 0.1. All right, so now let me start the frame here. So Lightburn for Galvo, you actually get a different sort of framing box than you would on Lightburn for CO2. With CO2, you just click frame and the laser runs. Galvo, you click frame and we get the red pointer giving us the outline. Let me switch back to the laser so we can take a look at that. I'm just going to kill this light so you can see exactly where that framing square is lighting up. So we have the end of the case there, and let's see, top, bottom. Looks like our work should fit. guess it'll fit as long as you have your LED pointer calibrated correctly. All right. Okay, so LightBurn for Galvo has hatch settings, I guess we could say, but we'll call them, see, lines and fills here. So fill settings that I'm going to use for this rotary, of course, I'm going to use filling it just on the y-axis, so sorry, on the x-axis as the y-axis turns. So we'll have a bidirectional fill on that x-axis, 0.025 line distance, so that is a multiple of our 0.1 split size. And we're just going to do one pass. Like I said, bidirectional fill. Have fill all shapes at once, and of course we do not want a line. Let's see. And for my laser, those are the settings that I'm going to use. So for sure everything's good to go within LightBurn, then you can hit start. In rotary mode, you get a double check in LightBurn Galvo. Well, I just need to always keep cut select graphics checkboxed in LightBurn, because sometimes I could have multiple, let's see, I guess multiple images or vectors, not images, but multiple vectors that are all the same cut layer, but I don't want everything to run, so I'll just do cut. I always do cut selected. So if I hit start, on that trace, there were some shapes that weren't filled, and I did not go back and redo the trace, and here's why. Let's see, whoops. Because when you click show me, LightBurn will highlight the shapes that weren't filled. Well, there's a whole bunch of shapes in there. If I just delete those out of there, there's no change. You don't see any additional changes to the overall fingerprint that would be a detriment to the quality of the finished product. So I just left it as is. So now when we hit start, we'll see the rotary double check. So you get to double check your split size, any overlap. So if you wanted your lines to overlap any amount, you would set it at this point. LightBurn does have a run whole shapes as possible mode. So let's say you were doing the outside of a ring and you had 12 letters in a name. You could have LightBurn try to run just one letter at a time. So it would run one letter, then turn a little faster to get to the next shape, and then turn a little faster, get to the next shape. So that can help speed the job up. So once we are confident that we're ready to go, we'll hit start. I'm going to take you back over to the laser and put my glasses on and put glasses on the camera, so hopefully you're able to see. I might have to rewatch it and take notes too. Do you want to go on stream, Matt? If you have anything to add, I'll just go ahead and pop you on there. Okay. All right, well, here we go. Why isn't it working? Oh no. I think I broke my laser, maybe? I mean, it's possible. Is it broke? I don't know. I did something on purpose, just as an example. I like to, on the live streams I've done in the past, I like to do things wrong just to show people what happens when you do something wrong. I don't think I'm in focus. So I should probably check that. Then we might see some real action on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and stop this rather than waste more time. Come in here with the focal stick. And uh-oh. We are way out. If you start your rotary and something's not working, first thing you have to do is check your focus. Because what happens a lot of times is somebody will use a steel pipe or some other cylindrical object to line the rotary up, make sure everything's square, and that might be at a different height than the object you're going to work with, but you say, oh, it's lined up, it's ready to go. Then you throw your object in your rotary, get it checked up in there, hit start, and nothing happens, and then you kind of panic and like, oh no, what's wrong? Stop, check your focus, and then move on from there. So now that we're in focus, we'll send it for real this time. And here we go. Any other questions out there? Kind of a couple weeks ago, when I did that, the ring, when I did the inside of the ring on Livestream, I purposefully did not check the box to reverse the rotary direction. That way it would output in reverse order, so people would see that, oh yeah, you need to reverse the rotary direction so that the letters output in the correct order. Alright, so we are getting a nice burn on the fingerprint. Hopefully you can see that coming through the stream pretty well. I think those glasses really help. You're able to, it's cutting down a lot of the glare on the camera. I was not aware of that. I probably should have read the manual. I'm thinking I should have read the manual. So Matt was just telling me what Alex said in chat is that the first thing you do in the event of any issue whatsoever is rip apart your machine, replace your source, replace all your power supplies, replace your relays, replace your laser bed, replace your Galvo head, replace all your cabling. Then, only then, do you check the focus. Again, I forgot to read the manual. Oh, the life of the rotary. It's so slow. Alright, my glasses are off. Camera's glasses are off. Let's see. Let me just give this a quick thorough cleaning with my Laser Everything hoodie. I'll turn the lights up a little bit. Then Lightburn cameras are manual focus, so I'm just going to focus this in. And we can take a look. The setting I'm using, it kind of gets like a white on the outside and then a dark finish on in the inside. So depending on the light, you see a couple different colors and textures there. But they turn out looking really good. And you can always throw a bit more power at it if you wanted, but I don't know. I'm happy with this result. I settled on this setting just to get like I said, kind of that two-tone finish there. Better view of it. Yes, that is 6.5 Creedmoor. So anyway, that's pretty much my process for start to finish on the rotary for a shell casing. Now, let's see, Matt, I'm going to pop you on screen. We'll get back to no, you don't have to. Cool. I'm gonna get back to Lightburn. And let's see, does anybody want me to run another one with any different settings or try anything different while I have it up here? Put the YouTube chat up there so everybody can see it. Sometimes chat. All right, Matt was asking why did I use the phone for the trace rather than I just saw another question. Okay, these those are just example shell casings that I'm doing now, but the real ones with the real name were spent casings from a military funeral that the person's name and the dates will be put on those, and then have some accompanying dog tags with some information on there. So each relative and friend that those are passed out to will get a shell casing and a dog tag. And oh, I think, does Dad want to see brass black deep LMA? I think we could do that. It's pretty close to wrapping around. But my outline box is smaller than the maximum dimensions of the case. So I purposefully made it a little smaller. You could always make your framing box bigger and your vectors larger. But I was happy with the way this looked. And you could go for a complete wraparound. If you try to make the fingerprint large enough to achieve that complete wrap around the case, you might end up having it become too, I guess, the way it's situated now, too wide, so it would extend beyond the body of the case. So that's why I didn't try to make it too much longer. Because if you wanted to take this image right here and make it so that it would wrap around, it's going to be way longer than, or wider than the case, so to speak. It ends up being too long in this direction. But you can play around with it however you want. Remind me, and I'll just run a box the circumference of the case around a blank case, just to show you how it'll wrap all the way around. All right, so let's do one with brass black. Then we can go back to Adobe Capture. So
Find them to button if they haven't yet.
All right, and if you're watching and you haven't hit the like button, I don't care whether you like it or not, just hit the damn button. Obviously, I'm kidding. I kid. Not really. I don't joke around.
Axe Gundam, baby.
That's right. Oh, I put something on my shelf just for you, Matt. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, guys, Patrick's definitely working hard, man. He's for those of you who don't know, he's spent like hours working on this, getting it prepped. Like, he makes it look so easy, though.
I don't know.
What's that cool jig you got shooting down here? Is that the air assist that you got down here?
Yeah, that is the nozzle from the air assist kit I've been working on.
Ooh, baby.
The first 3 shipped out. So we'll wait for feedback on those 3 and see what happens from there. All right, laser glasses on me, laser glasses on the camera, and let me change the setting to a brass black. Sorry for the radio sounds there. I just want to make sure I didn't screw it up.
All right, and we're in focus this time, yeah?
Yep, should be in focus. I think camera is in focus mostly.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, I'm going to fire the laser. Any moment now. That's not looking too bad.
Charred, baby.
I'm gonna have to come up with a special set of camera glasses that'll just be for cameras, so that the actual laser work will show up better on stream for folks. Let's see. Shouldn't be too much longer.
Yeah, Alex is mentioning 3-in-1. Give it a little quick polish.
Yeah, I have some sitting right beside me. Of course.
Yeah, so now that we've seen you make a couple of these, like what's the post work after you do the burn look like? How long? A couple of minutes?
For one of these, yeah, basically wipe it down with microfiber and some 3-in-1. You could take it a step further and do a like a soft bristle nylon brush and some 3-in-1 just to clean all the little bits out of the nooks and crannies. So that could be helpful. I see Kyle's comment there in chat.
HTL said rim oil.
Yeah, rim out oil, CLP. I mean, there's a variety of crap out there you can use. All right. So let me get this in focus so you can see the difference on camera. Hopefully it's not too hot. It's a little warm.
Waiting for it to cool. Jamie had a question. He said, does 3-in-1 just stop rusting?
On brass, you won't have to worry about rust. It just helps clean all the left behind debris. Because what I wanted to try to do is show you in the camera where you can see how it's how that crap's kind of running down. Like the oil just turned basically the same color as the brass. Black and started running off. All right, so there's just with some oil on it. Now get a cloth and wipe it off. Let me get a steel brush and wipe it down and see how it looks. I'm kidding. You wouldn't use a steel brush on the brass case.
Mess with my mind, dude.
Huh?
Says you mess with my mind, dude. I was like, that's gonna be terrible.
Yeah. The best reason to use 3-in-1 on your brass cases is because it makes them smell like 3-in-1. Yeah, it smells. It's almost fruity. It smells so good. All right, clip time. There we go.
Look at that. We got 31 likes and 31 people watching. Nice job, everybody.
So that just, I'd tried brass black, and it's nice and dark, which that probably would have been good for just text. I just like the tone effect by cutting the power back a little bit and making another frequency change gave. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with brass black. Everybody happy with seeing that?
Yep, did Hayward proud, man.
Yes, sir. I think he will be happy. What else? Any other questions?
Jamie wants to see if you could put both up next to each other to see the difference between the two settings you used.
Okay. See, the big challenge is finding the first one that I did.
Yeah, Wendy, he's got the side by side coming up. It's a good call. And it is one of those things like you really don't need the depth on this kind of a thing. I mean, the mark alone is something that looks really nice,
I'm trying to get them
but sometimes that depth
at
gets
a,
that texture.
let's see. Trying to get them both in the same
Yeah,
light.
there
It's
you go.
just hard to show. Come on. Let's just do this. Best way to show them is actually to just chuck them in the rotary and jog it around. Are you able to see the difference in the darker versus the lighter one? It's just top one's the darker and the bottom one has a little dark and has the kind of the two-tone look.
And Alex has a good point over in the chat. He said black brass deep catches a lot of fibers with the wrong cloth too, and that could make for
Yeah,
a
that was just a
troublesome
microfiber. Yeah.
cleanup.
You can see it left some residue behind. I mean, I could always go scrub it in the sink real quick. Here's a comparison of the...
Yeah, that's a great shot right there.
That bottom case, the other test cases I did, the names looked fine, but this one, it's a little weak. It could just be something with the annealing of the brass and how hot it became after it was fired, etc. There's lots of reasons that brass either get brittle or soft.
Yeah, especially if it's a spent casing.
Yeah, this one could have been reloaded a couple times. Who knows?
Right, it's exactly right. And then it's warping a little tiny bit here and there, microfractures, all kinds of stuff. But I think anybody who looks at a product like that kind of knows that's what they're getting too, especially knowing that it was at the funeral. Like that's one of the ones from it, you know. That's really cool, really meaningful.
Well, the coolest thing about laser engraving is even the two identical items can burn totally different and frustrate the hell out of you and make your life miserable. But it's wonderful, right?
Oh, but that's what
Why
makes
not?
it a work of art, man. That's
Yeah.
what makes it a work of art.
They're two things are alike, and I don't know, we seem to enjoy it. There's a view of the air assist with the camera mount and a bunch of arms to hold the camera in about any position you want.
Is that going to be something available to people coming out soon, or?
Yes, once the first 3 testers fire it up and give me some feedback.
Awesome, man.
We should see it soon. Let's see. And you had mentioned Capture. Let's see. Yeah, it makes for an awesome keepsake, that's for sure. All right, let me get this thing mirrored again. All right, so we're going to go back to Capture. I think what I'll do is pick a different image this time. Something that's not as, I guess you could say, as oddball as a fingerprint. How about the Adobe Creative Cloud logo? Capture is mobile only, so you'll have to look at the Google Play Store or iTunes, whatever the hell you guys call that store. The Apple dump. Is that what you call it? Is that what you said? I know. I don't care. All phones are pretty much alike nowadays anyway. There's only so much RAM you can jam into a damn phone. I won't go on a rant though. Yes. I'm just kidding. Okay, so here we have that Capture logo, and you can see that just by using the default adjustment, we're not getting anything near where we would want, and my little magic wand is still active up there, so that can either help or hurt, so you have to try it activated and deactivated. But if all we want is to capture this logo, we could end up with that, and if we want it to be just pure black and white, that's not good enough. So that's when you have to open up the menu, and you can go to your brightness and just turn it down until you have a nice even dark image. And sometimes that's kind of difficult to do. This is when the auto clean might help. Yeah, if somebody says, hey, can you do this? Then you can say, send it to me. Once you receive it on your phone, then just open up Capture and don't let them see what you're doing and how little time it takes. And then you can say, I could probably do something like this. At least get you in the ballpark, even if it's something you'd rather use a Lightburn or Illustrator with for a trace. Yep, so you can mess with that. Let me do one more. This one was a cool one. It's part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. So if you have a subscription to Illustrator, Photoshop, etc., etc., etc. Yep. That is correct. You're good. So did you see the original image? I'll pull it up again. It's right here in the center of the screen. All right. So here you can start moving the slider and adjust your darkness of the inner part of the ribbon. And we want that to be all the way dark. And here's where having the inverse button is nice, where you can just one touch and boom, you've got a nice quick trace. And then if you hit the auto clean, it'll kind of get rid of some of the stragglers. And were you able to see that cleanup? This one made for a good example. Whenever I was going through those today. Then again, click your button. This one is going on an axe, so I would absolutely, when it gets to style, click the smooth, and then just set and watch your phone work. Then that's the vector you come up with. Absolutely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that, and I'll show you the example here. Let's see. Let me get back to full screen. All right, so you see that. What I'm going to do is select that shape, then hit the open in Illustrator.
Yeah, Mad Cow is in a chat saying hours he spent cursing this computer, and you just zip zap that on your phone real quick.
Yeah, wait till you see this. Zip zap, and it's already in Illustrator waiting for you. So
Come on.
what I would do in this
And then
case,
you said,
if
I was
you
gonna say, you said it, yeah, for an AI or whatever, right?
yeah, so here we have this file, and let's say you have EasyCAD and you need it in AI8 format. So basically, select it. But this is how I would do it. I don't know how other people do it, but I would first expand it just to make sure everything was expanded. Then once it's expanded, I would go to the Pathfinder and merge it. And then I would come to the magic wand. And then there's a little bit right there that we want to get rid of. Just happen to see. Yep, it's right there. So we can go to ungroup and then select this little guy and delete. Now Control G to group that again. Then we hit the magic wand, select the black, and then go to select inverse. That's going to select the inner, which would be, looks clear right now, but it wouldn't show up that way in EasyCAD. And delete that. Click on that object, then click on Unite on your Pathfinder tools. It'll unite all the paths, and if there's anything that's left over, duplicates, anything like that, you'll see that change. You'll see areas darken or perhaps totally black out. And at that point, you know, you need to go back and expand and unite, or expand, merge, select the inverse, and delete again. There.
Go way faster than anything I can come up with.
Okay, so there's your image. That's going to import just fine into Lightburn. To get it into EasyCAD, save as Illustrator 8, and yeah, if you're sitting at your computer and do the trace with your phone and send it immediately, you can have that done in less than 5 minutes. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. Or if you,
so badass.
Yeah, and if you're using Lightburn, that SVG will import into Lightburn, so you just saved another step.
Yep. And for anybody who's asking or wondering, that's should be out. They're still in the projected second quarter phase. For anybody who's wondering.
Yes.
Which that means by the end of June sometime.
Let me get that. What I wanted to show you. So there's Capture in the Play Store. And here's Capture on Adobe's website. So another tool in the toolbox. You can do Lightburn for tracing, Illustrator for tracing, or Capture. Those are the main three I'll use. Of course, you can use any of the other vector software or whatever out there too, but because I'm the one on the video, so you're going to learn about what I'm using. Sorry. Okay, that's probably all the questions. That's the case. Yep. If that's
got anything.
What's that?
Said if unless anybody's got anything else, yep.
All right. Well, this will be available for replay either shortly after it ends, or if we end up downloading and re-uploading as some sort of edited version, but overall I think it's probably good enough to leave up. I don't know. I have to go back and watch it. Well, thanks for tuning in everybody. Don't forget to check out the Discord, and let's see, you should see the links to those up in the upper left and right hand corners of the screen. That will get you there. Then of course, like and subscribe to this channel, like and subscribe to the Laser Everything channel, which, let's see, if you're not familiar, is right here. So subscribe to Laser Everything and be on the lookout for exciting new stuff coming to both channels and Laser Everything website and everywhere else. I think we're just, Alex is just going to take over the world and laser the whole thing. Pretty soon, if you're in the space station, you'll see the Laser Everything logo. Kind of like the Great Wall, maybe. Or at least a better wall. I don't know. That's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you later. I'll try not to get too psyched on this one. Let's see. Get that. And that. And that. Let's see. All right. Have a good night.